Hi, I'm Lisa Shepard Stewart, and today I'll be showing you some of my favorite pillow hacks and little tips and tricks to give you a really professional look. Pillows are the first thing that I made when I moved into my own place many years ago, my first place. And they're great because they're small projects, they give a lot of pop, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So I want to start today by showing you how to make the best of those pillows and how to make them really look professional and nice. The first step for me is to use a fusible batting under all of my pillow fabrics. So you see here I have a batik from Ghana. It's one that I love. It's one from my little personal collection, but it's pretty lightweight. So what I wanted to do is give it some substance and some little more stability for embellishments and things like that. So I begin by fusing the entire piece of the front and the back of the pillow with the fusible batting. And I did most of it here. I'll just show you how that works. You can use a little bit of steam on this. Okay, and the rest is done. I just wanted to give you an idea of how that works. So now we have the front and the back of the pillow. At this point, when they're still separate, is when you would want to do any of your decorative stitching or any of your embellishments. You can add brass pieces or beading, any kind of embroidery, quilting, stitching, things like that. You'll want to do that because it gives you some stability. That's why you have the fusible here. There are really three reasons why you want to keep that. One is for the overall pillow stability, to give the fabric a little bit more weight, for adding the embellishments, and then for another trick that I'm going to show you. It's called faux cording. I'll show you that in a second. So now that we have our two pieces fused, what we'll do is position them right sides together. And you'll see here I made some lines. They're kind of curved lines. What that will do is we're going to actually sew curved lines. Normally you would think that you would sew the pillow in straight seams, but I'm going to show you a trick to avoid those dog ears. Okay, sometimes you get your pillow may kind of cave in a little bit. So in order to prevent that concave look, what we're going to use is curved piecing. It's actually going to look like this. So those are your seams. I've drawn them in with a permanent marker, and I like to kind of eyeball things and just hand draw them. If you decide you wanted to use a curved ruler, you can also do that. But what I'm doing is using a 3/8 inch seam allowance at the centers, right here. And then from there, I'm kind of coming inward from the corners and just kind of very simply drawing in my line for stitching. Okay, so there's that one, and here's this one. Okay, now the difference between that and just doing a curved seam is that you still maintain the corner of the pillow. You still have a nice sharp corner. When you do a curved seam, the pillow just gets rounded out. If that's the look you want, then that's fine. But if you're looking for a more classic square pillow, the curved seaming with separate seams is really going to work better for you. So let me show you that. You're going to go around all of the three sides, leaving the opening for turning. Okay, so I'll just do a couple of these right now. And we're just doing a straight stitch. Now you'll notice again I'm doing 4 separate seams. You actually can just pivot at the corners, but I like the idea of the 4 seams, so I'll just do a couple. And what that does is reinforce the corners as opposed to just doing one seam. When you're crossing over it, you actually have a little bit more secure seam. And again, just take your time because it is a little bit thicker than normal. It's out of the way. And again, if you don't like to eyeball or you don't really trust your eye to make it even, that's fine. But with pillows and things that I think are handcrafted, I'm not really one for perfection. I like that hand look, even though it should look professional at the same time. Okay, so there's one. Now normally I would cut that, but I'm just going to start again with the next line. I'm just going to do the second seam here. Okay, so again, you're crossing over the seam, and then we're going to do a little bit of trimming. Okay, you can just take your time. You can actually feel it's a little bit thicker under the machine, but the fusible fleece is very easy to sew through, so just kind of stitch through. It doesn't take any special thread or needle, just kind of take your time. Okay, so I've shown you those 2 seams. Then I can show you. So you see we have our cross seam here. What I'll then do is trim it so that it's equal to this 3/8 of an inch seam allowance here. You want that to kind of be even. So you're going to follow the line and just trim. Let me show you that. Okay, you want a nice sharp scissor too. These are great. So we're trimming that way. So do you see now the seam allowance matches up to that original 3/8 of an inch seam allowance in the center. And I'll just trim this one quickly. It's really simple to do. Any kind of fabric works for these. Like I said, you can use lighter weight quilting type fabrics. You can use upholstery fabrics, even old clothing, that kind of thing. You can just recycle and really make the look your own. Okay, so we've got these. Now you would stitch around all 4 sides, except you don't want to trim away your seam allowance for the opening. You're going to need that to turn inside. Okay, so you're going to stitch all the way except for this opening. And I want to show you that here. So I've actually stitched all the way around, leaving the opening here, not trimmed right here. Okay, and I've turned it right side out. Now to make that faux cording effect, so that you don't have to actually do piping, and for me that's just a lot of work, and this gives a really nice kind of simple look. What we're going to do then is, you see I've stitched some of it here already, so I've given away the surprise. But what you just want to do before you start stitching is run the iron along the edge of that seam allowance. And all of that nice bulk that you created from the fusible batting, you know, you'll feel that ridge right there. That's where you're going to sew. Okay, so we'll go around. Again, you're going to stop and start your stitching at the opening. So we can go around. I started in this direction. Okay, so I'm going to finish this little bit right here. Again, you've got that extra bulk, so you just take your zipper foot and the little extra manual lift. Lower. And even as you're stitching, you can kind of still roll the fabric and roll that batting in so it's nice and tight. Okay, so we've got that nice faux cording effect. You'll go about 3/8 of an inch. You can pivot, turn, and you're in position. Keep stitching. Keep stitching. And as you're stitching, you're also still running your finger along that ridge because you want to keep it nice and even and defined. And you want to fool everybody, make them think you actually did the cording. So the straighter the better on that. Okay, and one more pivot just to meet the original stitching right there. Okay. Now at this point, you can see you're just about done. Cut that. All right, now we have the faux cording effect, and you'll see you still have the curved seam. That hasn't really changed yet. That changes actually when you stuff the pillow, because most of the stuffing is in the center, and it pulls the center of the pillow in. So that's why you even get that effect. Okay, so we are actually going to stuff it, and then you'll take that seam allowance, you'll turn it in. I'm going to show you that quickly. You would then slip stitch the seam allowance as if it were this first seam, joining the 2 pieces together. Then you go back under the machine with the zipper foot again and continue the stitching here so it's continuous. And that's really how you have your pillow. Okay, so this is the finished one here. And you can see I've got some embellishments on there. It's a nice, even kind of a look. When you're using fiber fill, the fusible fleece inside helps to smooth that out and make it nice and even. And then you have your faux cording. It's got a nice firm hand to it because you've got all that nice batting stuffed in there. And then you also don't have the dog ears. Okay, but now if you do want to do that decorator chop, you can still do that, and it holds it very nicely. Okay, now I have a second quick technique to show you, again using the faux batting, the faux cording, and that's to do a bolster or neck roll style pillow. We're starting again with a piece of fabric that has completely been fused with the fusible batting, and then you would simply turn the sides in. You turn the sides in and stitch. And you can see already it looks like you inserted cording in there, and you really haven't inserted anything. You're just taking advantage of that nice fusible batting that you use that's within the whole pillow, so it's going to give you a nice effect. You stitch on both sides, And then what I did here was recycle an old towel. I folded the towel to the width of the pillow itself and just secured it with a couple of rubber bands. So it's a nice way to recycle when you have towels that are still in good condition, but you don't really want to throw them out yet. And maybe you have new ones, but this is a good way to use these up. Has a nice firm hand to it. And you would simply turn your raw edges under. You would slip stitch the closing. And then you can take just a quick running stitch by machine or by hand to gather this. These gather in. You can then finish with an embellishment or on the ends, and then you can just, like this one here, just leave it as fabric by itself. For this one, I used a mud cloth. It's from Mali, West Africa. And you can use any fabrics that you like that work with your decor, and I think you'd have a really great time with them. So try these techniques, and hopefully they'll make a big difference in your pillows.